Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today I want to review a new epoxy clay that I came across that I think you're gonna like. This epoxy is produced by what I believe is a startup company called Videoguru, and the clay itself is called Zyak. And with your typical use of epoxy, you always need to wear gloves, as you can see here, for protection. You don't want this on your skin. With some water, some sculpting tools, I will demonstrate. They have provided these tools, which is nice, but I will use these for another project since they are too large for what I am going to demonstrate today. Before I demo how to use the epoxy, here are some test pieces I made off camera. These are some horns I sculpted, potentially for a future project, but to show you the toughness of this particular material. Banging against each other and using a sculpting tool, this is what you should expect from an epoxy clay. But as we go along in the video, I will specify why this particular epoxy, in my opinion, is better than all the others. Putting these pieces to the test, applying pressure, breaking them, squeezing them, you can see that this material is very useful for a variety of applications. Again, you might be thinking, all epoxies can do this. But again, I will explain exactly why this particular one is better than all the others so far. Currently, I am working on a commission involving this cool model. The little guy here is holding the sheath of the character, the Lionel Johnson. I don't like the fact that he's holding that, and believe he should be holding his helmet instead. So I will remove the sheath from the little guy and put it on the side of the Lionel Johnson, and instead, his helmet will be carried by this guy, which I believe is called the Watcher. So I will cut off his arms and reconstruct or resculpt the arms and the hands holding the helmet. And that's what I have done using this clay. Due to time constraint, I did this off camera. And as you can see, I was successfully able to resculpt his arm and hands to appropriately hold the helmet of the Lionel Johnson. When we compare it to the original, in my opinion, it looks better, or at least it makes more sense. Lionel Johnson is a master swordsman according to the story, and there's nothing better or cooler than a master swordsman with his sheath on his side and his blade exposed. With this simple modification, thanks to the help of this epoxy, I am able to add some character to my storytelling. Let's get into one of the reasons why I think this epoxy is better than all the other ones. As you can see, you get quite a lot. Now let's compare it to a popular brand, Milliput. This is a hobby staple, and anytime you buy this epoxy, you get 2 skinny tubes. And to be fair, I have used about this much of it over time, but I will put things into perspective. Now let's visualize for a moment that I never used this Milliput. Straight outside the box, from down there all the way to up here, is the full size of the tube. When I compared Milliput's Part B to Zyak's Part B, the difference was shocking. Even when assuming that I never used the Milliput and it was a full tube, this one has at least 2.5 more material than Milliput. According to the manufacturer and the instructions on the container, you're supposed to warm these two up before using. I didn't have to do that. I found it very easy to take out and mix. And now for a quick demo on how to use this epoxy if you never used any epoxy clay before, or you're interested in this particular one. And just a quick reminder, safety first, always use gloves when handling any epoxy. Take equal parts of A and B and knit them together until it becomes one solid color. It is important to be as accurate as you can, mixing the two parts equally. Having a ratio off from either part A or part B could have changes in your curing time, could either take longer or cure too soon. Make sure you wet the fingertips of both of your hands before mixing. Otherwise, without using the water, as you mix, the epoxy will stick to your fingers. This leads me to my second point of why this epoxy clay is much better than the others I've tried. Now that my two parts are thoroughly mixed, let's get on with the little demo. Here is a model of the Mandalorian, which was originally a Christmas ornament, and after the holidays, I picked him up on sale for only $3. And because he was a Christmas ornament, I need to fix him up. I will make him a cool base and repaint him. But first, I need to fill in this hole in which the Christmas hook was on. And I have to resculpt that mohawk type of detail that he has on his helmet using the clay. The first step is to patch the hole as best as possible, patting down a little bit of the clay. And as I mentioned before, because this epoxy sticks so well, I don't have to worry about pulling it off from the model. As long as my sculpting tool is damped in water, I don't have to worry about it sticking to my tool either. And as you can see, it's very easy to manipulate and very malleable. Unlike other epoxies I've used, sometimes they don't want to stick to the model originally, and they tend to peel off or come off, and in some instances of desperation, I have found myself adding a little dab of crazy glue just for that initial tack, which is not supposed to be the case when you're using epoxy. But with this clay, the tack is instantaneous. Because this is not a sculpting video, I won't get into the nitty-gritty details on how to sculpt. This is just a demo to show how the epoxy performs. This little guy from earlier also has a hole here, and I want to cover that up since it won't look good when I paint him. A helpful tip with working with epoxies or sculpting with epoxies is to let the clay sit for at least 2 hours before you start sculpting or shaping or adding wrinkles or any details that will blend in with the model's contours. Allowing the clay to cure a little bit will give you more control over how you want it to look in the end. Once the clay is fully cured, you can go back and sand down or scrape away any imperfections that you couldn't get when the clay was still malleable. After about 10 hours, off camera I sanded down and shaped and blended the clay into place with the helmet, and once I paint this guy, you won't be able to tell there was a hole there. I also took the opportunity to fill in some ugly holes that he had under his arm here, and this clay is very useful for that as well. I did the same with this one, sanded everything down, and it's all flush, ready to paint. Overall, I give this epoxy a 10 out of 10 for all the right reasons. For many years I've been using Melipa as my staple, but I have made up my mind that I will be switching to Zayak because of how good it is and because of how much I get. So you get more for your money with this one. If you want to get yourself a set, you can find these on Amazon. And if you found the video useful, thank you for watching.